Good morning, evening, or night, wherever you are. Welcome to WHAM today. Take a deep breath, clear your mind, and let's drift through the whispers of today's world, one quiet thought at a time. As we wrap up Friday, 11th April 2025, let's see what stories are unfolding around us. United States trade relations with China have worsened, evidenced by increasing tariffs from both sides. The Trump administration's tariff policies, effectively imposing a 145% rate on Chinese goods, have prompted retaliatory tariffs from Beijing, reaching 125% on U.S. imports. This exchange has caused uncertainty for U.S. soybean farmers and companies like Tesla, resulting in volatile stock markets, including losses for the S&P 500, NASDAQ, and Dow Jones. Tesla has paused orders for U.S. imported Model S and Model X vehicles in China because of these tariffs, pushing consumers toward Shanghai-made Model Y and Model 3 vehicles. Concerns are mounting regarding a potential financial war and the vulnerability of China's overseas assets. The U.S. is also planning more tariffs, this time targeting China's shipbuilding sector. Beyond the bilateral impact, the trade war between the U.S. and China is having global economic effects. JPMorgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon has cautioned about considerable turbulence arising from the China stuff and the uncertain effects of tariffs. China and the EU are diversifying trade in response to steep U.S. tariffs, raising fears that Europe could become a dumping ground for inexpensive goods. The escalating tariff war also threatens China's corporate earnings recovery, leading Chinese exporters to raise prices for Americans and diversify their markets to mitigate the impact. Despite the trade war, China is continuing its technological advancements. ByteDance, TikTok's parent company, is using its popular apps to develop advanced artificial intelligence. A new AI fund in China plans to invest $8 billion into early-stage projects. In other policy news, the United States is targeting a China oil storage terminal with new Iran-related sanctions. India's economic climate is weathering both headwinds and tailwinds. April saw foreign portfolio investors, FPIs, pull out yacht 32,000 crore, largely due to concerns over escalating global trade disputes. Despite this, the Sensex has rallied, climbing 1310 points after the U.S. suspended certain tariffs. This suspension also buoyed specialty chemical stocks. For instance, Pi Industries shares jumped over 7.4%. Jefferies' Chris Wood has increased India's allocation in their Asia-Pacific portfolio, pointing to the nation's strong macroeconomic fundamentals. Axis Securities anticipates EBITDA growth for Indian steel companies in Q4 FY25, favoring APL Apollo Tubes and Coal India for investment. Phillip Capital is cautiously optimistic about India's FMG sector in FY26, spotlighting GCPL, Marico, Tata Consumer, and Britannia as leading choices. Though India's IPO market has seen struggles linked to global trade uncertainties, the country continues to pursue a trade agreement with the U.S. further. The U.S. has extradited an individual to India accused of involvement in the Mumbai terror attacks, reinforcing counter-terrorism collaboration. The European Union initially held off on retaliatory tariffs, pending further developments on metal tariffs. Despite this pause, tariffs on metals remain a contentious issue. To counteract economic challenges from trade uncertainties, several EU members are offering financial support. Germany is among those implementing financial lifelines for businesses and workers. Italy has also introduced measures to mitigate the impact of higher tariffs. Portugal is providing financial assistance to affected industries. Spain joins the list of nations offering financial support. The German finance chief voiced optimism about the euro potentially gaining prominence in international trade. United States UR Union, led by President Sean Fain, is pushing for targeted tariffs on automotive manufacturing. The goal is to bring jobs back to the country. However, The union is wary of broad, universal duties. Former President Trump claims widespread interest in trade agreements with the U.S., but offered no specifics. American businesses are now grappling with new tariffs, assessing their impact and planning responses. Mexico is on track to secure a beneficial trade agreement, possibly including exemptions from U.S. tariffs that would significantly aid its auto sector, despite previous tariff actions by the Trump administration. Simultaneously, Mexico is nearing an agreement with the U.S. to resolve the persistent border water dispute. Businesses in Texas and New Mexico have welcomed the tariff exemptions granted to Mexico, but remain cautious about potential future trade disruptions. Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission, is focused on reinforcing Europe and lessening its reliance on the United States, given the changing landscape of global trade. European stocks have shown more strength than U.S. stocks during the current trade disputes. This resilience stems from several causes, such as the varying effects of tariffs, increased European political stability, fiscal stimulus efforts, and the distinct nature of European stock markets. Global markets are exhibiting instability due to President Trump's tariff policies, raising concerns about a possible economic downturn. China's President Xi Jinping emphasized the importance of multilateralism during a meeting with Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez, set against the backdrop of ongoing trade tensions with the U.S. The United Kingdom saw its economy grow by 0.5% in February, exceeding predictions. Ukraine has broadened its diplomatic reach by establishing formal ties with Somalia. Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez journeyed to China to foster stronger relations between the two nations. Meanwhile, Tesla initiated operations in Saudi Arabia, opening its inaugural showroom and service center in Riyadh. France is positioned to spearhead Europe's rearmament, aiming for an independent defense sector, despite existing hurdles. Singapore stands out as a global hub, with a high density of AI professionals, according to LinkedIn data. In El Salvador, the U.S. Department of Justice missed a court-imposed deadline for outlining its strategy to repatriate Abrigo Garcia from an El Salvadorian prison. Brazil is grappling with a 2-year inflation peak, prompting discussions about the scale of the expected interest rate increase. Colombia's capital has ended its year-long water rationing measures. Morocco is actively recruiting operators for what will be Africa's largest shipyard. Japan's stock market dipped nearly 3% amidst mixed trading in the Asia-Pacific region, fueled by worries about the U.S.-China trade situation and a cumulative tariff rate of 145% on goods from China. And that's a wrap for today's news, because even headlines need a nap. Stay curious, stay kind, and let the noise fade as you find your quiet. Take care, stay awesome, and I'll see you next time on WHAM Today.